Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of With Conviction, a story of hope, horror, and history. My name is Rain, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm your GM for this adventure. With me are my quite confident heroes for this campaign. Why don't you all introduce yourselves?
Hi there, I'm Alice. I play Desdemona Heartwood. Both of us use she and they pronouns. Desdemona is a Roseheart guardian. She's a sort of punky, gothy, magical girl who is ready to punch a certain rider in the face.
Hi, I'm Skylin. My pronouns are they and them, and I play Chris Whitlock, whose pronouns are she or any. Chris is our extremely sporty, magical not a girl who is our firebrand artillery, and who is currently trying to figure out how to do the thing she's been asked to do.
And I am Rob. My pronouns are he, him, and I play Eliza Hardwick, whose pronouns are she, her. Eliza is our fiery, stalwart soul warrior magical girl, and she's feeling pretty confident. We'll see if that's unearned or not.
Indeed, because y'all have a plan. You have returned to the gray once again, this time feeling prepared to take the battle to the rider who had routed you last time. And you seem to have a plan to prepare for that fight. So, how is that going?
Last time, Chris was a little confused by Eliza's ideas, but she's going along with them anyway. And I think what happens here is we see probably 2 hours or so of work where Chris is making and emptying volleyball after volleyball after volleyball. At some point, she kind of looks at this pile of empty volleyballs and gets frustrated with them. She mashes them all back into the earth and pulls up a pedestal instead. And from this, she practices pulling sheets of stone. And she looks to Eliza and then to Desdemona and goes, I think I can do this like dumplings. And she takes a sheet of rock and folds it into a cup, offers it to Eliza to put glass in, and then folds it like a dumpling, much like Morgan had taught her. And she does this again and again and again and again and again and again. It's a drill. Everything's a drill. The next thing she does is she tries putting Desdemona's glass in. She looks and says, Can we try putting your shield in? Like, can you break that up and see what happens when you get it back?
Des slowly crushes her shield again and flicks the shards into the hollow dumpling ball, and then tries resummoning her shield to see what happens to the shards.
What happens when Chris reopens that dumpling? What do we see?
You see a pile of glittering glass shards.
So we have glass in the ball and an intact shield at the same time.
You do. Seems like Des is getting more used to this.
Okay. So Chris repeats that with Desdemona again and again and again until they've got a rhythm down. Then she turns to Eliza and says, Okay, I know you want to put gunpowder in here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you try just putting power in instead? Like a core of fire?
Oh,
Chris makes another cupped dumpling and asks for glass and then fire.
Yeah. Des drops her glass in.
Eliza visibly thinks about it for a moment and then realizes that thinking about it is not the right approach with magic. And she's just going to try putting her fire and magic into this ball of glass and stone.
You call up that same little puff of fire that you've summoned so many times before, and you let it slip from your hand into the ball, and you can see the glass start to soften and deform and begin to melt around it. And once it's free of your hand, according to your will, it simply floats there. It's not supported by anything. It's not nestled against the glass, but it is floating in the middle of the glass and stone.
That's new.
Okay. So let's try. Eliza, make me another puff.
And she does.
Chris encapsulates the fire with stone and then puts that inside another sheet of stone dumpling that has the glass around it to see if that stony exterior is enough to protect the glass inside the ball.
It seems to. The stone is absorbing most of the heat, but I don't know how long it would last.
Okay. Chris puts that one down and tries to make a new one. The new one she throws immediately against a tree.
Oh,
Does it explode on impact?
It shatters in every direction. Hot stone and hot glass rain down through the trees like hail. And you can see charred spots like a shotgun everywhere.
I think that'll do.
That's what you wanted, right?
I want to note that through this whole 2-hour development process, Eliza has actually somehow managed to get her hand on a thing of hardtack and is just kind of chewing on it.
It's extremely hard.
Yeah.
200 years old, hard.
Uh-huh.
You got it from the gray.
Yes.
It has no nutritional
Better
value
yet,
whatsoever.
She didn't get it from the grave.
That's even weirder.
She thinks it's hardtack, but it's actually just a piece of bread that she left out.
Oh no.
Oh.
Once they see that shattering explosion of a shot, Chris picks up the ball that she'd put down and throws that one just to see if it has the same effect once it has cooled down for a moment.
This one still has Eliza's fire in it, yes?
It does, but it's been sitting on the ground for a couple minutes now.
Eliza,
Mhm.
roll me misusing magic with your conviction.
Oh. All right. Here, I have the rule book open. Let me just. My conviction is currently 3 darkness, so that's handy.
Okay.
All right. Well, I rolled a 5 natively, but my conviction makes that into an 8.
All right. So, do you want it weaker, stronger, or not what you wanted?
I think, narratively speaking, weaker than we wanted is the right approach.
Yeah, it shatters, but instead of molten glass and rock, you see beads thereof that have solidified fly through the trees.
Okay. I think we have something that can work.
Looks like it's best if we do it right before we use it.
Yeah. We need to
Okay.
run this drill a few times before we try using it.
Okay.
So Chris directs them through a series of drills to make sure that they know how to do this shot. Something like this requires coordinated teamwork. Chris is a captain. She is going to make it goddamn sure that they can do it.
At some point during this, Chris gives an order, and Eliza just says, "Yes, boss."
What'd you say?
She looks up. I called you boss?
My team does that.
Eliza just smiles.
Desdemona, roll read a soul for me. Sorry.
I wish I had a skill related to it, is really the only thing. For once, not screwed over by the dice. That's a 7.
Chris is shocked. It takes her a second, but she recovers and starts rolling with it. Okay. What are we calling this?
So it's kind of like canister shot, and that we're trying to cover everything, an area, and
Almost like a big glass grenade.
mm, I don't know about that. It's a bit wordy. We want something we can say real fast and immediately know what we mean.
Oh, like an anime kind of thing.
I guess.
I mean, this is my shot and it shatters. Do you want to just call it Shatter Shot?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. When we need it, I'll call for it.
All right. And do we feel ready to go looking for trouble?
Chris nods.
Hey, who here wants to make a check to listen?
Only one of us?
Anyone can do it if they want.
I mean, if you're going to let us all roll,
May as well,
you
yeah.
might as well.
Yeah. I want to know what's happening.
Flat roll. Not me.
Chris rolls an 8.
8 for Des as well.
Eliza rolls a 6. It's
Oh, boy.
probably harder to listen given that she's got a headphone in her ear that's playing some MCR right now.
Two of you hear gunshots.
I think trouble came to us.
Oh, what?
You hear the crack, crack, and then shouting and commotion from the other side of the camp.
Let's go.
Yeah. Des
All right.
takes off to try and get a view on what's happening before we get there.
All right, so you're in the sky?
Yeah.
Eliza is sticking with Chris.
So when you get there, you see monsters rushing out of the forest at you. There are several smaller ones and two large, bulky ones that remind you if somebody had taken the sludge out of the river and formed it into something humanoid, and then a bunch of flickering shadows that seem to be barely there. You can see what looks like a couple of the powder that you had collected, some cannons, and a pile of shot. Not far away, you can see the medical tent where Tilly is quickly ushering people inside and helping to move those who need it. And you can see the open field where these monsters are approaching from. You can see soldiers starting to line up with their rifles and take aim. What are you doing?
We're taking the front.
Yeah, I think if it looks like Chris and Eliza are going to be coming along and helping real quick, then Des is just going to plunge in and go for a quick attack on whatever's attacking them.
All right. So the 3 zones here are the cannons, the medical tent, and the field. All of the enemies are currently in the field. Who is going first?
Me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Understood. What are you doing?
I'm just going to slam into one of the enemies. I guess I should pick one. Let's go for one of the big boys.
Go ahead and roll that fight.
Alrighty. That is, I assume if I'm like slamming into them with my shield, I can add the shield check. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good, because that's a 7 with the shield check.
No, wait, actually.
No, well, hold on.
Yeah. All right. So one of them takes a point of stress.
Sounds good.
All right. So you see one of the shadows sort of stutter up in your direction, and it flickers around the one that you've just attacked, sort of obscuring which way it's moving and making it a bit harder to get a bead on. It is going to use impede.
Okay.
So, who's next?
What does it do?
I'm gonna go hang out with cannons. It's best if I can throw from a distance.
Also, what does impede do?
I don't know.
Yeah, you
Yes,
do.
you do.
You made the game.
I read this rule like yesterday.
You'll have to find out.
Here I was trying to be helpful. Okay, who's up next?
Chris has just volunteered to go over to the cannons. I meant that as opening up for Eliza to run in.
No, Eliza's gonna just nod at Chris when she says that.
Okay, so then I think Chris is going to take her first shot here. She sets up near the cannons and she takes a look at the field that's there. I think Chris is going to pick up just a normal softball. These are a little easier for her to throw rather than having to serve them. And she's going to take aim at one of the shadows.
All right. Which one? The one that is currently around the larger beast, or one of the other ones?
We'll go with the one that's next to the larger beast.
Okay.
So, since we just set up the zones, does going by the cannons count as my movement?
Yes.
Okay. So she's just gonna line up this shot as best she can. She's not gonna be able to use read right now, but she's just gonna do her best. And she is still hesitating from her transformation.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is a 9 on the dice, -1 is 8.
Aren't you adding place, though?
I am adding place, +2 is 10.
Indeed. So that is 2 points of stress. But as you aim at this thing, it's flickering around the larger figure, and it's hard to see what the large one is doing, but you're able to line up that shot. And as the softball flies in, you see out of that darkness a massive hand reaches out and grabs it. And the beast is going to use interception and take that damage instead.
Was it the sludge monster that used intercept?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that means that it's that one's turn. So it is going to lumber forward towards Chris, and it's going to try to attack you. All right. That is a 9.
Uh-huh.
So you take 1 point of stress.
Got it.
As it takes this softball that it's just caught out of midair and then slams this pillar-like hand down into you.
Ugh! Fuck!
Well, I know what Eliza's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Eliza just comes rocketing in at head height for this sludgy colossus, and she is going for. Well, she tries to go for the eyes, and then does she realize there aren't any eyes?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Lacking any eyes, she's just going to go for the head in general.
All right. And as you do that, you see the shadow flicker and concentrate, and it's hard to get a bead on exactly where you are aiming. Your shot is going to be hesitating
All right.
as it expends its impede.
Okay. So rolling fight. All right. So that is a 6 plus 2 for reading patterns is 8, -1 is 7, right?
Damn. Yes.
All right. And Eliza is running at 3 darkness right now, so that's going to be 4 stress.
Ugh, yeah, that is enough to put this thing down.
Oh, okay.
You just cut straight through it, and it's as if you had cut through a vase that is holding water. It just sludges down into a pool on the ground and starts seeping into the dirt.
Eliza's still hovering at what was head height for this thing, just looks down to, ew.
Also, since we have now activated and used it, Can you give a more detailed description of what impede does?
Seems like it just applies -1 to the next attack.
-1 to an attack of my choice.
Oh, okay.
Well, at the level that we are using it.
Oh.
So I believe I have one more of these two, or I believe I have one more turn to play with.
Yep.
Yes, all three of us have gone.
Okay. One of the smaller ones is going to move up and start attacking Eliza, I think.
Okay.
And that's an 8, so you take 1 point of stress.
All right. That she suffers.
All right. Top of the round. Who's going?
Me. Am I able to move into the cannon zone?
You can move into all the zones from all the other zones.
Beautiful. I will be moving into the cannon zone and then protecting myself.
All right. So the other large sludge creature is going to use, sludge, and is going to make a fight roll against you as you try to leave.
It gets an opportunity attack?
Oh.
But it does miss with a 4, so you are able to leave.
Dang it. Guild's active. It wouldn't have done anything to me anyways.
Remember that monster that tried to keep Chris down? This is the same ability.
Well, yeah.
Right.
I see you haven't forgotten.
No, I haven't, Rain.
Alrighty. So, great news. Let's see how this goes. That is a 7. So, ongoing, anyone who attacks me, Eliza, or Chris is going to have a -3 to their attack rolls.
Woo.
Holy shit. How?
That is my goad ability. You take the brunt of the hurt so your friends don't have to. You may protect yourself. When you do so, enemies take a penalty to their roll equal to your current light when attacking your friends in the same zone. Additionally, on a partial success, you reduce incoming stress by 1. So, also for the record, to do any damage to me right now, you got to do 3 stress to do 1 damage.
Jesus Christ.
So they can still attack you without the -3 because you don't count as your own ally, right?
Yeah, but I'm protecting myself.
Yes.
So I still get the
I see.
benefits of protect.
Yeah.
Also, again,
Good lord.
they can attack me. It's fine.
Nice.
Eliza's like, no, let them hurt me. I need the XP.
She does.
Well, you can push your conviction, okay?
Yeah.
Another one of the smaller ones that seem to be made of an amalgamation of tree branches and bayonets sort of skitters towards you and is going to try to attack Chris.
Good luck.
That's a 9 total.
Wow.
-3?
Yes.
Oh my
Shit.
god.
All right.
Yeah, it was 12.
All right, then.
Crap.
So Chris takes 1 point of stress.
I've got to say, creature made of tree branches and bayonets is genuinely like the freakiest description you've thrown in so far.
It's pretty freaky.
Because I don't know if anybody here played Final Fantasy X, but I'm picturing those like enemies that just have knives for hands and feet, and just that, but also made of wood. It's very freaky.
The old knife hand.
Chris, upon taking that stress, fuck, why are they targeting me? Chris is going to stand her ground, take a moment to line this shot up, and use Read. She's focusing on one of the shadows and is just going to try picking these things off. So Chris's conviction is currently at 1 light, so I will be rolling at a +3, 2 for place and 1 for read, unless Rain tells me otherwise.
No, that checks out.
Oh, I meant you might use impede on me. That is a 9 on the dice, plus 3 is 12.
Whoa.
Yeah, that'll do it. That knocks out one of the shadows.
Do I get to know how many shadows we have?
There seems to be, well, they're shadows, so in this place it's a bit hard to pick them out, but as far as your eagle eyes can see,
Fuck you! They're hawk's eyes. Fuck you, loving and caring, not
Loving
actually angry.
I know. There seems to be one more remaining.
And we haven't knocked out any of the smaller creatures.
No. How many of the hedgehog creatures are there?
3.
Okay.
Well, there's a whole bunch, but the fusillades of rifle fire are zoning them out and cutting down any that try to come at odd angles, so you only have to worry about 3 of them.
Okay.
All right, so it's my turn. And yes, one of these spiky things is going to take a slash again at Chris. Does less good this time. Alice, your goad is still up.
Correct.
What does it look like when that has an effect? Is it like a flash of light in their eyes? Are you refracting light through your glass? Are you just putting the shield in the way?
Yeah, I think we already have seen what it looks like when she's wielding darkness, which is just like really rapid shielding. So I think for wielding the light, I think it is more like she sees this enemy going for one of her teammates, and her shield glints with a light that isn't there, and sort of like gets in their eyes and keeps them from hitting their mark.
Excellent. Like looking at stained glass that's being lit by the sun.
Right. Yeah. Why is stained glass so bright? That's what I want to know.
It's about what's on the other side. And so this thing lashes out but catches that light, and you actually see where the light hits it, it starts to sizzle and burn, and it shrieks. And like like a bird that doesn't know how to fly, it spasms and flutters up into the air and hovers there.
Hmm. Is it now in the sky zone?
I
Yes,
was
it
gonna
is.
ask. Well,
All right,
well.
Eliza's going to go for that then. This is one of the spiky creatures, right?
Yes.
All right, so it's some sort of spike hawk. And yeah, Eliza's jetpack just unfolds with a clicking sound series, purple fire streaking out of it, and she jumps into the air right after this thing. I rolled an 11 on the dice, so 13.
Yep, you cut straight through this thing, and not a moment after it gets into the sky, there is a rain of something that wants to be branches and long abandoned rusted bayonets that collapse to the ground.
I have to say, Rain of Bayonets would be a kick-ass name for a metal band. Or like a Sabaton album. I bet they'd do that.
Oh my god. You see the last shadow flicker into place around the other remaining sludge monster. And that'll be its turn as it uses impede.
Chris grits her teeth, and Desdemona, you can see there's a little bit of fear behind her eyes as she picks up one more softball, breathes, focuses, and tries to take out that last shadow. We are again using Reed. That's a 9 on the dice. Plus 3 is 12. It's different numbers this time, though.
Yep. And you see the same thing happen. You throw that softball, And once again, the sludge, which this time is not in the shape of an arm, but more of a wave, kind of lurches out of the darkness and pulls that into it as it takes the stress instead. And it is going to take its turn to lumber into your zone and try to pull you into that brackish sludge.
Uh-oh.
Yes, and that also does not land. Top of the round, there's rifle fire going off all around you. More of these things are surging out of the woods. You can see them tearing at the men around you. You seem to be holding your ground for now. And as a matter of fact, you can see Tilly has joined the fight as well. She's not fighting as well as you, but she is supporting some of the men who are there and keeping them standing when shielding them. So, what are you doing? Who's going first?
I can go first. I know something I want Eliza to do.
Go for it.
All right, Eliza is going for that last sludge monster, and since she's in the sky zone right now, like a character in a pirate movie descending by cutting through the sail, she's just going to slice this thing vertically as she descends back into the artillery zone.
Okay.
Rolling fight. Ooh, that didn't work.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was a 4 on the dice. Plus 2 is 6.
Oof. Yeah, nope. See, you land right next to this thing and make your cut, but unfortunately, you're just a moment off. And this thing is going to do something a little unusual.
Uh-oh.
It's going to make a grab for the sword in your belt.
Ah.
That is a 7, so just barely. It swipes, and there is that yank on your belt as it slips because you don't have a sheath, you don't have it hooked to anything, it's just in there. It slips free and scatters to the ground.
There's definitely a look of concern in Eliza's eyes as she looks up at this thing now.
That sword's just on the ground.
Yes.
Chris looks up at the monsters. That's our key, isn't it?
Yeah, get it.
Okay. She's going to pick it up and run towards the medical tent where Tilly is.
All right. Well, it's not going to let you run. So let's see how that goes. Once again, does not succeed.
Yes.
I hate you, Alice.
Yes.
You managed to interpose yourself and get enough space for Chris to move to another zone. And this thing is going to lumber after her. And it's going to make another fight. Because if you're holding it, then you need to be removed. Ugh. And goad only applies to people in the same zone, yes?
Yeah.
That is an 11, so you take a point of stress, Chris.
Okay.
As what had been sort of a swirling tide solidifies just long enough to hammer into you and knock you back into one of the poles of the tent.
Fuck.
All right. I believe Dez is the only one who hasn't gone in this round.
Yes, ma'am. Des is gonna bolt over to the same zone that Chris is in. How many monsters do we have left, by the way?
You can see 2 more of the spiky ones, 1 more of that sludgy tide, and 1 shadow that is with the tide.
Okay. And Sludgy Boy, is that in the same zone as Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna be in the same zone as Chris, and I'm gonna protect myself again, I believe.
All right.
And give Chris a little protection until we all get to go again. That is an 8.
Yep, sounds good. You get that shield set up and it is glowing brightly.
I shouldn't have told you how much damage reduction I have.
Well, there are two more of the spiky ones, and one that is from the field is going to move up toward the area around the cannons and try to attack Eliza.
Hello.
Hello. And that's a 7.
Well, that'll do it.
Yeah. You take 1 point of stress, and you can see this thing as it lashes out at you. It flits backward to sort of jitter back and forward next to some of the cannons or cannon shells and powder.
Hmm. So maybe don't attack it with a flaming sword.
We're due. Top of the round. Who's going?
Despite having just gotten slashed at, Eliza is still primarily concerned with the sludge monster that's going after Chris. So she is just going to create distance from the spike creature, rocket into the air, and once again try to go for the sludge monster. This time she's going for a more traditional stab rather than trying to vertically bisect it all fancy like.
All right. I'm going to expend that impede, so that is hesitating.
All right, so that ends up converting it from a 10 to a 9.
I like it when it matters.
It's still 4 stress.
Oh my
Jesus
god.
Christ.
Goodness.
You pierce straight through this thing, and you can see it actually starts to collapse for a second before pulling itself together.
Huh. Worked on the other one.
What do I want to do? My Lancer instincts are kicking in. I'm going to use the one that's about to die. That stab grabs its attention and it whirls around more like a water spout than a person and knocks your sword aside, and you can see some of the brackish debris that has been caught up in its shape sort of swings out toward you. Wow, that is. Des, you said it's a -3 to anyone against you except you.
Yes.
It rolls a 0.
Yay!
So I'm seriously impressed. Woo! All right. And it's going to stay there.
Chris looks at Desdemona. Just help.
Des reaches out and like clasps one of Chris's hands. It's like, hey, we got this. And she's gonna try to sway Chris. That is an 8.
All right.
So
Where are you trying to sway?
1 up towards light.
Okay. Actually, better question. What is your light right now? And Chris, what is your light right now?
1.
3.
All right. Yeah. So you move toward light.
All right, and
Okay.
luckily for you, Rain, that means Goad is no longer active.
I caught that. So you say, hey, we've got this. And then the water forms into a fist and slams into you as it tries to attack you.
What I'm waiting for.
That's a little more successful. That is an 8.
Great. And how much stress does it deal?
1 point.
So 1 point total, or
Oh, no, I forgot about your damage reduction. It only deals 1 stress.
so I take 0 stress from getting hit by this?
That's
Is that right?
hilarious.
So it hits me. I get real wet from the sludge, and you can just see the like pink glow burning the sludge away.
Oh, God. And it actually recoils as that light burns away at it. Whose turn is it?
Chris's, I think.
Okay. Maybe. Maybe. I think Chris here is just going to stick to Desdemona. She steps behind this pink hope and pulls up another softball. And she sets her eyes on the monsters that are at the cannons. Taking that moment to line up the shot, we're going to roll read and place. I'll be rolling at +4. Which is a damn good thing, because that's a 4 on the dice. That brings us to 8.
All right, that is a partial success. And in this case, I would like to offer you a deal.
Oh,
Okay.
I want to give you the results of a full success.
But
But the complications will be significant as well.
I think I know where she's going with this.
I
too.
have a sense of where she's going with this, and here's my problem.
You can say no.
I know I can say no. My problem is that I'm having the video gamer instinct of do the weird thing.
Yeah, it's the like, well, there's an empty cave there. Of course I'm gonna go in it.
You can't see the grin on my face.
I don't need to, right?
Yeah, if this was offered to me, I would do it instantly because otherwise I'm gonna wonder what it was forever.
So I think narratively, what's happening here is Chris is really trying to play on the defensive, and she's doing everything she can to keep that sword out of the hands of the monsters, and she really doesn't want to give that up. So I think what's happened here, I'm going to say no to your deal, much as it hurts me as a player, because I'm interested to see what it is.
Shiny.
And as much as it's going to hurt my cast, my fellow cast members, I think we're going to say no to that deal.
All right. So you line up your shot, you aim it, you see an opening to secure and be absolutely certain that this thing is going to die. But you wait just a fraction of a second longer. And the sight line clears up because you realize that downrange of this thing that you'd been aiming at, there's a bunch of powder and cannon shells.
Mm-hmm.
And as this thing jitters to one side, you see an open angle and you take it and you throw, and it cuts straight through it and kills it. Which I believe means it's now my turn. Who has the sword right now?
Chris.
All right. The last remaining, let's call it a bramble, is going to skitter towards you and try to make a fight attack to disarm you.
Come on, hit me.
And that is a 7, but because it is specifically trying to disarm you instead of hurt you, it does manage to do that. This sword, again, falls to the ground away from you. You kind of tussle and try and grab it. This thing is swinging at you. It is very sharp, and it goes up in the air and lands blade down in the open field. So, whose turn is it?
Chris is going after that sword.
All right, you're going to grab it again?
Yeah. What I'd like to do here is actually roll a protect for the sword.
To keep people from trying to grab at it?
Yes. Or keep them from
Okay.
being successful.
Go ahead and roll.
Okay. That is a 7 on the dice. And since my conviction is only 2, I'm not going to add to it because that won't affect the final result.
Okay, so that is a partial success. Anything that is going to go after the sword is going to be redirected to you instead, which is appropriate because that same one that was attacking you just a moment ago is going to follow you and start slashing at you now because it sees that you're in the way. You are holding this thing almost behind you and warding it off with one hand. It's going to start slashing at you.
Yeah, Chris's wings are fully in front of her with the attempt to keep this thing safe.
Yes, and you can feel this thing start slashing into your wings and slashing as you take another point of stress as it rolls a full success.
And as this happens, this time Chris grits her teeth and sinks her feet into the ground, and light comes from her feet to her wings to her hair. And we are using Burning Bright to take that stress into light.
Sounds good.
And because that was a fight roll, I would now like to use Recall.
All right, where are you going?
Cannon Zone.
All right, makes sense. That's its turn.
I have lost track of who's where. Can we get a reminder?
So,
We can scroll
you,
up.
the Shadow, and the Tide, as well as Dez, are around the medical tent. The last remaining Bramble is in the open field, and Chris is near the cannons.
Okay. Yeah, I think logical thing right now is for Eliza to just try to finish off the tide, you called it?
Yes.
Alright, yeah. And she, settles into a formal fencing pose for a moment, and then just lunges, and she's going for this thing's knee, because it's much taller than her.
Or where its knees should be.
Yeah, roughly. And that's a 7. It'll only be 1 stress because she hasn't moved into a new zone, and that's required for strike to activate. But if my math is right, this thing only has 1 stress left anyway, so.
You would be correct. You pierce this thing, and it strikes something solid deep inside it. And it begins to twist and churn and begin to spray in every direction before it explodes.
Oh, some of it got in my mouth!
Chris, you don't hear any of what Eliza's saying because you remember Pancakes sitting across from Dez, giving an order to a red-headed waiter. One of you asking for a very large stack of pancakes, and the other one asking for apparently new protein pancakes. You remember a few days later, where you're sitting with Eliza and Dez and Faith, talking about things going on over pancakes. You remember sometime after that, now with Hazel added to the group, you're all discussing things. Another talk, this time Hazel's missing. You remember because she's in the hospital. And you remember all those times when you were just spending time with friends. You remember pancakes.
Chris kneels down, leans on the grip of the sword. It sinks into the earth as her weight carries it downward. Her wings cover her body, her face, so no one can see the tears.
But there's no time for that because it is now their turn, and it's going to keep coming after you. The one moves out of the field and leaps onto your wings. And that's a 7, so it deals you another point of stress.
Chris takes that, abruptly stands up, turns around, says, "Fuck you!" and wings away. I'm going to use Recall again.
All right.
Back to the medical tent.
And as Chris arrives at the medical tent, what did the other two see on her face?
The dirt and dust and grime of the fight that has covered her cheeks has 2 clean lines of skin where tears have washed them away. There is pain and love and grief in her eyes. The feathers of her wings are torn. And she just stands there breathing heavily for a moment.
All right. I think it's Dez's turn.
Do I remember now?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
We all remember pancakes.
Yes, okay.
Des skims along the ground with her wings and gives Chris a tackle hug, and tears in her eyes, rolls up from the hug and pulls her shield up in front of her and Chris to protect again.
We are in the same zone as Eliza still, so that'll be helpful.
That is a 9 total, unless I can add endure, in which case it is a 10.
All right, a 10 it is. All right. You've been in these fights before. Several times before, you have seen these things retreat at this point. But this time they're not retreating. It is a fierce, angry, relentless attack as this last remaining bramble moves back into your zone and starts trying to get past Dez to attack Chris. And that is a -3 to the roll, if my memory serves. Are you
That is correct.
protecting yourself or are you protecting Chris?
I'm protecting myself.
Okay, so that's a -3 to that roll, which makes it an 8. So Chris takes 1 more stress. It's going to use Dart to move up into the sky.
You guys mind if I go?
Go for it.
Please.
All right. Eliza sees this happen and rockets into the air, hovering on her jets for a moment as she just looks at this bramble. And she actually takes a pose and then with one hand just waves the thing towards her as if inviting it to attack her. And she gets an 11, so 13 to fight. As it comes at her, she just deals 5 stress straight to this thing.
Oh yeah, there's not even anything left. It is just immediately consumed in a flash of fire. Like flash paper, it is gone. Nothing falls to the ground. And at this point, the last shadow that had been remaining sort of settles into the grass and flickers out of existence.
Eliza strikes a pose.
Chris collapses to the ground.
Des goes in for another bone crunching hug on Chris.
Dez.
Chris!
Ow.
Des looks around at the remaining soldiers and at Tilly and asks them if they'll be okay here without us.
Tilly looks at them and looks at you and nods. We seem to have made it through this one okay. She gives you a grateful smile.
Eliza descends on her jets and just touches down almost gracefully, but not quite. And smiles at Tilly and then looks at Chris and realizes something. It's just now that the pancakes are coming back to her.
Tilly, you're a healer, right?
Yes, do you need help?
Please.
She kneels down and lays her hands on your wings, and you see a pair of rings begin to glow with that same blue light. It leaves the rings and settles into your wounds, and pretty much instantly you can feel the pain start to recede as you heal 3 points of stress.
Chris takes a breath that is no longer shaky. She lets it out in something of a groan, but smiles at Tilly. Thank you.
Just make sure to take some time to rest now.
Chris swallows hard and nods and looks to Des. Des, Fuck. Thank you. Eliza, thank you.
We got you.
We're not done, I don't think.
But maybe done for today.
You were my team. And from the ground, she pulls both of them into a hug.
Ah!
There's the awkward moment of us all trying to figure out how to fit our wings into the hug.
Eliza's just fold up.
Well, okay, so it's just me and Chris battling
Chris's-
with our wings.
Yeah.
Chris's wings are flat out on the ground, so there's space for Dez's to be flat out over top, because
Okay.
she has pulled the two of you into effectively a dog pile on top of her.
Amazing. Eliza just lays down and leans into this hug, and she's like feeling the warmth of Chris's cheek against hers, and it's just she is actually the one contributing the warmth, but she can't tell that. She is so warm to the touch right now.
Chris pulls both of you in close. Fuck. And she places a trembling kiss on the foreheads of each of you. You're my team. I'm gonna fucking act like it.
I'm sorry, Chris. I should have protected you better.
No, we don't know. Bad days happen. It's okay. Just be here.
We're not going anywhere.
For a long, long time, Chris just holds the two of you there. And then she, pats your backs to signal you to get up, and she says, "So why the fuck haven't you two been treating Hazel like she's team?"
What?
What do you mean?
I'm not Jesse. I'm not as good at reading people as they are. But I know when a team's not coming together. What happened?
When we tried, she ended up in the hospital?
She got hurt really badly because of us.
Well, specifically because of me.
Well, okay. I mean, you were stabbing a monster, so I don't think
Yeah.
that's super fair.
Chris's head is ticking back and forth between Desdemona and Eliza as they speak, trying to put it all together. She can't quite.
So it's mostly just because she can't take as much punishment as we can? Although I guess if we've got a healer on hand, and she looks up at Tilly.
Tilly seems to be occupied by working with some of the soldiers.
That makes sense.
We're not trying to exclude her. We're trying to keep her safe, which I know isn't a particularly fair thing to do to someone.
Is this one of those things I would know about if I'd watched all those Marvel movies?
I don't think so. I don't think they
Okay.
do that in the Marvel films.
Alright.
Chris's face softens. We can talk about it later. But she deserves some kind of chance.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
She may not have powers or be trans, but we don't have the right to sideline her.
Chris gives Desdemona a tight hug and stays there for a minute. She backs off again and takes Dez's hands and squeezes them and says, "Thank you."
And I think that's a good place for us to wrap up this episode. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. And thank you to my players. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good night. Thank you again for joining us on this adventure. With Conviction is a production of Silver Maiden Games. If you would like to play Conviction, check out the game at silvermaidengames.itch.io. Music for the intro and outro of this podcast is A Soul with Conviction by Doom Vega, who you can find on Bandcamp. Music within the episodes is by Rachel Rose Mitchell, who you can find on Bandcamp and Spotify. All rights to the music are retained by their original artist. Production and editing are done by myself and the With Conviction cast. Thank you all. This would not be what it is without you. You can find this podcast on Spotify and YouTube or silvermaidengames.wordpress.com. You can also find more about the game, podcast, and ways to contact us at silvermaidengames.wordpress.com.